What it is racism, right? It gets blown up into, oh, they're going after Caitlin Clark, but no, we're just playing one of the best players that's in this league.
We saw what happened last year. Caitlin Clark was targeted.
Like, that's been a part of the game. The game has always been physical.
I know what physical basketball looks like.
How can you be a top 5 player if you have not won a title?
They do leave Caitlin Clark out for the simple reason of not having a championship ring.
Only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her.
Ranking players based on having a ring, a bit of an unfair way just to rank a player's potential.
Caitlin Clark just can't catch a break. First, the WNBA players gang up on her, calling the backlash against their dirty plays racism. And now, ESPN, yes, the same network that cashed in on her popularity, is straight up erasing her from history by leaving her off the list of the greatest women's college basketball players of all time.
But I do find it interesting that they do tout off all her accomplishments, records that have not been broken by anybody else, and they still cannot consider her in the top 5 best category.
Natasha Cloud is leading the charge, openly trashing the new WNBA fans, the very people keeping the league alive.
What was your reaction to some of the new viewers and fans to the game thinking that the WNBA was too rough?
You see when I too knocked out? Yeah, rookie season, Jewel Lloyd. It's just a part of the game. So there was no targeting, there was no nothing.
But we all know the real reason for the hate. Caitlin Clark walked into the WNBA, dominated, and exposed the weakness of players who thought they ran the league.
The white lady entered the league and started shutting y'all's asses up. She started knocking them down.
The truth is out, and today, we're breaking it all down. Natasha Cloud's race-baiting, ESPN's ridiculous snub, and the WNBA's pathetic attempt to push Caitlin Clark out. Buckle up, because this one's gonna get heated.
Natasha Cloud has come out and said the new fans that have come into the league, a lot of them are racist.
Natasha Cloud just couldn't help herself. Instead of embracing the WNBA's newfound success, she went on a full-blown attack, not just against Caitlin Clark, but against the entire fan base that came in to support the league.
So she went on with fellow racist Ryan Clark on the pivot, talking about how racist we are. They can't see over their own hate.
According to her, these new fans, who, let's be real, showed up because of Caitlin Clark, are nothing more than racists who don't belong in the WNBA. That's right, Cloud went on a podcast with Ryan Clark and made it clear, in her mind, this isn't about basketball, it's about race.
By the end of the first year, y'all all look like fools. The rookie made the all-WNBA team, but y'all got reality checked, and these players are mad. They wanted to grow the league as long as the league were a bunch of woke activist fans.
She flat out claimed that the criticism Caitlin Clark has faced, the brutal fouls, the biased officiating, and the non-stop targeting wasn't actually happening. Instead, she spun the narrative that this is how the WNBA has always been played, and that the only reason people are calling it out now is because Caitlin Clark is white.
The vets are going after certain players. It's all bullshit.
I know what physical basketball looks like, and I know that what I saw on Caitlin Clark last year was not physical basketball, it was targeting.
This is the same Natasha Cloud who hates Sophie Cunningham simply because she voted for Donald Trump. The same Natasha Cloud who, instead of taking responsibility for her poor WNBA career, blames the system and the fans.
Natasha Cloud hates Sophie Cunningham for voting for Trump. She hates America.
I tried to have open dialogue. I tried to have hard dialogue with her. And it is what it is. What you vote for this election, we gonna see. But my life depends on it. And if that don't matter to you, you can't tell someone you love them and then vote against their life. Period.
And now she's trying to rewrite history by acting like Caitlin Clark isn't being unfairly targeted. But here's the truth. Caitlin Clark was attacked from the moment she stepped into the WNBA. Not because she was a rookie or because she was a new face in the league, but because she was stealing the spotlight from the so-called stars who were used to controlling the narrative. Angel Reese, Alyssa Thomas, and now Natasha Cloud have all taken turns trying to discredit her, using every excuse in the book, except the truth.
Just because y'all are used to playing prison ball for decades doesn't mean it's ethical basketball. No one was watching, so no one cared. Now the world is watching the WNBA, and the new viewers are calling out unethical hoops. It's not racism. It's an unbearable product that needs to change. The players need to be better. The referees need to be better.
Cloud and her allies can keep screaming racism all they want, but here's what's really happening. Caitlin Clark came in, dominated, and exposed their weaknesses. She didn't need activism. She didn't need political talking points. She didn't need special treatment. She let her game do the talking, and that's exactly why they can't stand her.
It almost felt like marketers were trying to figure out, like, yeah, we have all of these amazing players and these amazing personalities, but can we push the demographic? And then when Caitlin Clark got to the league, the Angel Reeses got to the league, and they might have been fouled hard. The same thing I saw happen with Shamika Holsclaw, though.
You see my tooth knocked out?
Yeah,
Rookie season, Jewel Lloyd. My tooth knocked out. I still didn't get it fixed.
So how do you?
It's cool.
T-Clark, how do you feel about the fact that all of a sudden it was, oh, it's too physical. Oh, they're going at them because they're stars. What was your reaction to some of the new viewers and fans to the game thinking that the WNBA was too rough?
It was a crazy season because we have never had so much momentum behind our league, so much support, demand, viewership, all that, accessibility. But the craziness that came with the new fandom was rooted in something other than fandom, right? And I think that's very evident to see across the board. In a lot of ways, it has not been about basketball. Like, we can talk about, you know, people getting fouled. I just showed you my tooth getting knocked out. Like, that's been a part of the game. The game has always been physical. I can tell you the amount of times I've left with bloody lips and eyes. I have bruises all over my body, even from the game last night. You can see bruises on my elbow from last night. Like, it's just a part of the game. So there was no targeting. There was no nothing.
Right.
That narrative that got spun into, oh, the vets hate the rookies hate the vets are going after certain players. It's all bullshit. Like, if I'm just gonna be frank, it's all bullshit. What it is racism, right? It gets blown up into, oh, they're going after Caitlin Clark, but no, we're just playing one of the best players that's in this league the way that any other best player, franchise player is gonna get played. Watch how Stewie gets played. Watch how Asia gets played. Watch how Enrique gets played. Watch how Khalid gets played. Go down the list of franchise players for every team. They be getting fucked up every game. It don't matter what position you are, what color you are, what school you came out of. This is how we feed our families. Our job is to go and win, and if we don't win, what happens? We get fired. We lose our jobs. So.
Facts. Caitlin Clark is getting mauled, no calls. Ryan Clark is a clout chaser that stinks at sports commentary. His co-hosts aren't worth mentioning. Natasha Cloud, a.k.a. Natasha Clown, is running the race-baiting media because she's average at best in the W, and now she's stuck in Connecticut because she stinks.
And let's not forget the biggest hypocrisy. The same WNBA that begged for more fans, more exposure, and more respect is now demonizing the very people who made that happen. Why? Because those fans aren't the woke activists they wanted. They're real sports fans who care about the game.
There are racists everywhere. It is, again, unfair to say the most popular player in the WNBA has seen in years brought that in. Most people were simply upset that their star players were getting roughed up, mostly because they never watched a WNBA game in their life.
The truth is clear. Natasha Cloud isn't mad about racism. She's mad that Caitlin Clark and her fans are changing the league, and there's nothing she can do to stop it. If you needed any more proof that the media is working overtime to undermine Caitlin Clark, look no further than ESPN's latest disgrace. In their ranking of the top 5 greatest women's college basketball players of all time, Caitlin Clark, the most dominant, record-breaking, game-changing player of this generation, was completely left out.
Here's the thing. Love Caitlin. Love how she's transcended the game. I'm not going to go away from that. But in the open, we said, what makes a top 5 player? Winning. The only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her, because the way she has dominated the record books when she was at Iowa was something you cannot duplicate. She's a 3-time NCAA scoring leader and assist leader, a true point guard for the people, 3-time All-American, 2-time Naismith Player of the Year, 2-time AP Player of the Year, all-time leading scorer. She broke the records of Kelsey Plum and Sabrina. Like, literally, there is nobody who has been such a front-facing name. It's through a direct reflection of her skill set, but how can you be a top 5 player if you have not won a title?
It's a great point, which is why I agree with you.
And what was their reasoning? She didn't win a championship. Seriously? That's the only argument they have. Because when you actually look at what Caitlin Clark accomplished in her college career, there's no denying that she belongs on that list.
if you don't think that Caitlin Clark is one of the top 5 basketball players of all time, but for the simple reason of not winning a championship, I do have to disagree. Championships are definitely a team recognition. They are something that a team does together and accomplishes.
Let's lay out the facts. All-time leading scorer in NCAA history, men's or women's. That's not just WNBA greats. That's every college basketball player. 3-time NCAA scoring leader and assist leader. A true definition of a playmaker. 2-time National Player of the Year. 2-time AP Player of the Year. 3-time All-American. Single-handedly carried Iowa to back-to-back championship games.
There have always been the dominant teams. There is UConn, there is South Carolina. I think that the fact that Caitlin Clark started on a team that did not have mind-blowing talent existing and brought that team to a championship really says something about you as a player. And when you are ranking players, you are ranking them as an individual unit rather than a team.
Despite not playing for a powerhouse like UConn, South Carolina, or Tennessee. So let's get this straight. Caitlin Clark rewrote the record books, played at a level no one else has ever reached, and completely changed the sport.
A lot of times, you as an individual can really raise that team up and bring them to a championship. Breanna Stewart, who was ranked #1 in the top college basketball players of all time, but if she would have been on an Iowa team, would she have been able to win that championship also?
But because she didn't win a championship, she doesn't belong? Well, if that's the case, then let's apply that same logic to everyone else on the list. Because here's something ESPN doesn't want to talk about. Championships in college basketball are a team achievement. They don't define a player's greatness. Some of the best players in history never won a title, but they still left a lasting impact on the game. Now, let's look at the hypocrisy. Breanna Stewart, Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Cheryl Miller made ESPN's top 5 list, and sure, they're all great players.
The Mist, which is Breanna Stewart's team, is the second to worst team in Unrivaled. And Breanna Stewart, with her talent, with her just winning a championship WNBA ring on the Liberty, did not raise that team to any high level in Unrivaled herself.
But do you know what they all had that Caitlin Clark never did? Stacked teams. Breanna Stewart played for UConn, a program that dominates women's college basketball every single year. That's not a slight against her, but does anyone honestly think she would have won 4 championships if she played for Iowa? And it's not just Stewart. Candace Parker had Tennessee, Diana Taurasi had UConn, Maya Moore had UConn, Cheryl Miller had USC. They were all surrounded by elite recruits, future WNBA stars, and Hall of Fame coaches. Now compare that to Caitlin Clark. She wasn't recruited to a blue blood program. She didn't play alongside multiple WNBA first-round picks. She didn't have legendary coaching. She took a school that had never been on the national stage and made them relevant overnight. That's the definition of greatness.
And their ranking is that Breanna Stewart is the #1 best college basketball player of all time. The #2 best basketball player is Candace Parker. And then they have Diana Taurasi. And then they have Maya Moore. And then in that 5th slot, they slot in Cheryl Miller.
And let's not forget what she did for the sport. Before Caitlin Clark, women's college basketball wasn't drawing millions of viewers. It wasn't selling out arenas. It wasn't breaking records. Caitlin Clark changed everything. She brought the ratings. She brought the sponsorships. She made people care. Even ESPN's own analysts admitted this. They spent the entire segment talking about her unbelievable impact, acknowledging that no one in history had ever done what she did. But instead of giving her credit, they hid behind the weak argument of no championship and erased her from the list. This wasn't just a snub, it was a hit job, because ESPN knows that Caitlin Clark isn't just the best player of her generation, she's the best player women's college basketball has ever seen. And instead of celebrating that, they're punishing her for it. The truth is, Caitlin Clark was too great for them to ignore, but too threatening for them to embrace. They wanted to push their own narrative. They wanted their chosen players to stay at the top, but Caitlin Clark shattered their system. She wasn't supposed to be the face of the sport. She wasn't supposed to be bigger than the WNBA. She wasn't supposed to dominate the conversation, but she did, and that's why ESPN and the rest of the media are desperate to discredit her. But the fans aren't stupid. We see through the lies. We know Caitlin Clark was robbed, and and no matter how hard they try, they will never erase the legacy she's already built. If anyone still thinks Caitlin Clark isn't being targeted in the WNBA, they're either blind, in denial, or pushing the same tired agenda that players like Natasha Cloud and Angel Reese keep spreading. Because at this point, the evidence is overwhelming. From the very moment Caitlin Clark stepped into the league, she became a target on and off the court. It wasn't just physical basketball. It wasn't just tough defense. It was calculated, intentional, and most importantly, encouraged.
For somebody who went to a team like Iowa, who did not have championship experience, who did not have stars around her. And it is undeniable that there is one player that brought Iowa to the championship that raised everybody else up around her, and their name is Caitlin Clark.
Let's rewind back to the early WNBA season. Clark was getting knocked to the ground, elbowed in the face, and shoved without consequence. Players weren't just defending her aggressively, they were going out of their way to send a message. And yet, what happened every time Clark took a hit? Referees looked the other way, commentators downplayed it, other players justified it, saying she needed to be humbled. And when Clark's fans called it out, they were immediately labeled as racists. Let's compare that to the treatment of other WNBA stars. When Angel Reese gets fouled, the media is outraged. They scream about protecting the players. They demand better officiating. When Aja Wilson takes contact, she goes to the free throw line almost every time. When Caitlin Clark gets hammered to the ground, it's just basketball. It's a welcome to the league moment. And if she dares react, she's the problem. And don't just take my word for it. The stats back it up. Caitlin Clark, despite being one of the most aggressive offensive players in the WNBA, doesn't even rank near the top in free throw attempts. Meanwhile, other so-called stars are getting twice as many trips to the line. Then there's the flagrant foul double standard. We've seen veterans take clear, obvious cheap shots at Clark. The most infamous was when Kennedy Carter straight up body checked her in the middle of the court. And what happened? No immediate whistle, no flagrant foul call, no ejection. Meanwhile, when Caitlin Clark committed a simple foul later in the season, one that was nowhere near as bad as the hits she's taken, the officials immediately reviewed it for a flagrant. So let's get this straight. When Clark gets assaulted on the court, it's just the physicality of the game. But when she so much as breathes on an opponent, it's a major issue? That's not basketball. That's an agenda.
That association, they gave us a gym that I paid for. Not entirely, but they took money out of my check and I paid for it.
You better get the fucking full usage of that.
Man, I got hot tub, cold tub, weight room, full court basketball room. I walk in today, I'm on one side working out, Caitlin Clark on the other side.
Really?
I look at myself, there you go, two fucking legends, Patty.
Did you say what's up?
You know I say what's up, but I'm not the type to say what's up to interrupt your workout because I don't like people to interrupt mine. She can shoot the shit out of it.
And the WNBA assist leader this past year.
She can shoot the shit out the ball.
She's a great shooter.
And she's one of those workout people, you know, got to think, anytime I hit the court, I got to hit that bike. I'm older now, so I got to get on that bike and stroll for a couple, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So while I'm strolling through the park, I'm looking at her shoot it. And she's one of those shooters where, if you know as a gym rat, you guys know, like, damn, bro, why you throw that pass bad? Give me the ball in my chest. I'm like, oh, she's a gangster also.
She's lighting people up.
Throw me the ball the way I want it.
What drill was it? What drill was she running?
I don't know. She was doing a 2 in a row corner wing. And if you miss, you have to go back to the next spot. And if you missed again, you have to go back to the starting spot. She had a nice drill. I'm literally still in it.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right. So she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
And then there's the media's role in all of this. Natasha Cloud and other players have made it clear they don't want Caitlin Clark to succeed. Instead of celebrating her record-breaking performances, they spend interviews and podcasts whining about her fans and pretending that all criticism of the WNBA is based on racism. Cloud had the audacity to go on Ryan Clark's show and say that there was no targeting, no agenda, and that the controversy was made up. Oh really? Then why did Cheryl Miller, one of the most respected legends in women's basketball, say the exact opposite? Cheryl Miller, who played in an era of physical, tough basketball, went on record saying what was happening to Caitlin Clark was beyond normal physicality. It was deliberate targeting. And because she told the truth, the media is now trying to erase her too. It's all part of the bigger game the WNBA is playing. They wanted the Caitlin Clark effect. They wanted the millions of new viewers, the sold out arenas, and the sponsorships. But they never wanted her to actually take over. They wanted her to be a side character, a stepping stone for their so-called stars. Now that she's bigger than the league itself, they're trying to push her down. But the worst part part, they're doing it at the expense of the fans, the integrity of the sport, and even their own credibility, because no matter how much they try to silence Caitlin Clark's impact, no matter how many dirty fouls they ignore, and no matter how many times the media tries to spin the story, the people aren't blind. The fans see the double standards. They see the blatant bias. And no matter how much they try, they can't stop the rise of Caitlin Clark. At the end of the day, this isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about power, control, and a league that can't handle the rise of Caitlin Clark. Natasha Cloud and her crew want to gaslight the fans, pretending that Caitlin Clark isn't being unfairly targeted. ESPN wants to erase her legacy just because she didn't play for a powerhouse team. And the WNBA, they're trying to control the narrative, hoping that people are too blind to see the truth. But here's the problem for them. The fans aren't stupid. We saw the hits Caitlin Clark took all season. We watched as the referees swallowed their whistles while calling fouls against her. We heard the excuses from players who can't stand that a rookie is bigger than their entire league. Caitlin Clark didn't need a championship to be the greatest. She proved it every single time she stepped on the court. The WNBA wanted attention. They got it, but now they're mad because they can't control the narrative anymore. Caitlin Clark has already won. She's broken the system. She's bigger than the WNBA, and no matter how hard they try, they can't erase her. So let them keep making excuses, let them keep pushing their fake narratives, because in the end, the fans will always know the truth. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Caitlin Clark being targeted? Is ESPN deliberately disrespecting her? Let's talk about it, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hard-hitting takes.